Okay, so let's start. We have 15 more people have registered and paid for tickets, so I'm guessing they're going to join. So good evening, everyone, or good morning. I don't know where you're calling from, but I'm calling from Australia. So it's Monday morning here. But I'm assuming if you're in the US, it's your Sunday evening. And thank you for joining. Feel free to start your video. It's always nice to see faces, but it's fine if you're shy and you want to stay without the video. So our call is recorded too, so you'll be able to hear again the whole communion experience that we are going to have together. And you'll receive an email probably by tomorrow with a link for the recording, so you can just go back to it. And for those of you that are new here, that haven't joined the call before, we just started this shamanic communion this year, and the idea of it is that we get together once a month, so we can gather as a community. So we can explore what's going on during that specific month with nature, with shamanic communion. That's what we call it this way, which is basically nature-based practices. So we can connect to the theme of nature and what's happening at the moment. And we just on the time of Imbolc. For those of you who are familiar with it or not familiar with it, it's this time of the year where we are at the middle of the winter, the exact middle of the winter. And they say that it's the first time in the year that we can start feeling a little bit spring coming, because the days are getting longer. The sun is, hanging out a little bit longer with us. And it's funny because I'm doing the call from the southern hemisphere right now. So here it's the middle of summer. So it's the opposite. Here we are going to say goodbye to the summer, and here we're saying good morning to spring. That's going to come in the middle of this winter for you. So during our call today, so I'm going to start it by an opening prayer. And then I'm going to share a little bit about the theme of the month. And I'm going to talk today about Imbolc, which is usually between February 1st, February 2nd, that middle of the winter. And then I'm going to talk about specific elements and directions, so east, west, north, and south, so that we can connect specifically at this time of the year and kind of get our body attuned to the rhythm of nature. And the reason we do that as shamanic practitioner is that we believe also we are completely connected to nature. We're part of it, as the tree, as the animals, as the rivers, as the forest. But because of the life we're living, this modern life, and maybe we live in a home that are heated, we live with artificial lights, and things like that, our bodies can feel sometimes disconnected from the natural cycle, but yet they're still connected to a certain way to it. And so the more we can attune ourselves to the rhythm of nature, the more we can understand what's happening for us internally and externally, the more we can relate and connect to each other, to all our relations. And also the more we can probably better understand maybe what is moving inside of us right now, what is alive in this time of the year. Then we'll go through shamanic cards readings. I've pulled some card earlier before the call to prepare our call. And I'll tell you a little bit about what the grandmothers and the grandfathers, the spirits, want to tell us, want to communicate with us. And then we'll have some shamanic drumming and a healing time where you can, kind of dive in and reflect how this reading Imbolc is resonating for you, with some meditation and guidance that I can offer you for this month of February. And finally, I will share some practice, things that you can bring back home or practice during the months of February that can attune you more to what's happening right now for us. And then we'll have a closing prayer and maybe a little bit of sharing for those of you that feels like sharing, and kind of go together. So the call is going to be an hour and a half, 90 minutes. And yeah, so I want to start by bringing for you a prayer and a calling to the Spirit. And so I invite you during that prayer to just close your eyes basically and just, let that prayer be alive for you, and let it kind of sit in so we can turn inwards, be present with whatever message spirits wants to give each and every one of us. So I just invite you to, to just close your eyes, connect to your heart, connect to your bodies, and to let that prayer resonate with you. Oh, great Spirit, great mystery. Thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this prayer that you are sending us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to pray with you, great Spirit, to connect, to reconnect with ourselves and with our Creator. Calling the grandmothers and the grandfathers of the East, Grandfather Fire, we call you into our space, we call you into our prayer. May you bring lights inside our bodies, inside our soul, so we can see the places that are in the dark and want to be seen and felt. Thank you for bringing the prayer of gratitude, Grandfather Fire. May this prayer open our hearts to allow us to see all the blessings we have received, all the blessings that are on their way to us. Grandfather Puma, Grandmother Jaguar, we call you into our space. Thank you for bringing your gift of wisdom, your protection, and your prayers. May we learn to see in the way you see. May we open our eyes and let the light of your fire fill our bodies and our hearts. Calling the grandmothers and the grandfather of the West, Grandmother Water. Thank you, Grandmother, Sacred Waters, for bringing the prayer of clarity. May we see our reflections in the water. May we see clearly as the waters, our clear reflection, and let go of all illusions, all the lies we tell ourselves, so we can open to the clarity of our own truth as we walk this path. Grandfather Eagle, Grandmother Condor, we call you. May we learn to see from great heights all the details in our life and learn to see which details matters, so we can focus our prayers and see clearly in the way you see. Calling the grandmothers and the grandfather of the North, Grandfather Wind, Thank you for bringing to us a prayer of unity, reminding us that there is no others. May we see our reflection in all our relations. May we see the connection between all our relations. May Grandfather Wind bring our prayers to the Creator. May we hear the prayers of all our relations. Grandfather dear, thank you for bringing your prayer in this direction, connecting us to all our ancestors, to all our relations. Thank you for bringing the medicines to us. Calling the grandmothers and the grandfather of the South, Grandmother Earth. Thank you, grandmother, mother of all mother. Thank you for bringing the prayer of love, unconditional love, teaching us how to give unconditionally. Calling grandmother snake and grandmother spiders, the guardians of the South Gate. Grandmother snake teaches how to walk on this earth softly, gently, teaching us how to shed our skin with ease, trust, and faith. Grandmother Spider, thank you for reminding us that everything is connected. Thank you for weaving such a perfect web between all our relations, showing us that everything is connected, reminding us how to weave our own prayers. To the spirit of above, Grandfather Sky, Grandfather Sun, Grandmother Moon, stars beings and beings beyond the stars, thank you for protecting us and guiding us. Bring your wisdom as we walk this life. To the spirit of below, spirit animals, guardians of the underworld, thank you for holding our steps and guiding us in these prayers. To all my relations, in every directions, all the spirits and guides, masters, angels and archangels. Thank you for reminding us how to pray. May you all open our hearts so we can remember our prayers. Aho. Always feels good to reconnect, so let's go of all the things that happened today so we can be really present. Maybe we had a busy day, maybe we are thinking already about the week ahead and what's going to happen or might not happen. So let's connect just with this present moment, with each other and with the prayers, with the guidance that's always available for us as we connect here. So one of the things I want to start sharing with you is connecting to the theme of this month of February that just started, and connecting that to our own rhythm, our own cycles. So here we are, it's in bulk time. And in bulk is that moments, like I shared earlier, where we are at the middle of the winter, the exact middle, where we are changing from the cusp or going into the winter from going in at the winter. And Imbolc in that symbol of the beginning of springs. And Imbolc has been, it's a pagan, very ancient celebration that's often symbolized with Bridget or Saint Bridget. And she's this goddess that comes around during the winter months. She's walking around the forest that's covered with snow, and she starts sprinkling flowers on the snow. She starts bringing that wisdom and reminding us of spring that is going to return. She also symbolizes the birth of animals. It's a time of where animals start to give birth to new offsprings. And very often you see representation of Imbolc as this goddess that is bringing those animals around. So I have a little picture of her here, depiction of her. And you can see that she's holding that stick with the light on it, the return of the sun. She's spreading those flowers on the ground here, and the snow starts melting as she walks around. So she's starting to bring that spring, but you can see the forest is still covered with snow. We're still at the middle of winter. And in shamanic wisdom, we always like to look at those early signs. If we are very attuned with nature and we go for a walk, I did that a few days ago, right before I left America, because I'm now in Australia, and I could already see some little greens coming out of the ground. I could see some of the buds on the tree getting bigger. I could see some of the snow starting to melt, and even some insects, with a couple of warm days coming out and start checking out if spring is coming or not. And so that's what she represents. She represents this beginning of spring, this beginning of this season of transition into the new days, into this lambing season. So she's also a symbol of fertility and light because of that. And she's quite powerful if we connect to her, and if we connect to what's happening at the moment. And one of the trees that is connected to Bridget is the willow, the sacred willow tree. And very often you will see her on some depiction hanging around with some willow tree. And I have another representation of her here, which is a little bit different. But you can see she has this little lamb, and it's more of a spring representation of her here. But she's bringing, you can see the sun rising behind her. And I like this representation that because she brings that joy, she brings that, feminine creation of life. Life's coming back. Life is returning. And so she has this energy. And one of the symbol of her is that cross. And maybe you know that cross, or you've seen it before. Can you see that? Can you see the cross here that I'm sharing? Or you still sitting, Bridget? No. Okay, let me make sure you see that. Okay, let me do that again. There you go. Yes. And you see that cross. So it's maybe a cross that you've seen before. And that cross has many interpretation, like many ancient symbols. There's many ways to read them. But that cross represents the sun. That's the star, the sun, our star. It's also connected, you can see, to the 4 directions. So it's very shamanic in itself. And here we are sitting at the center of the cross, this sun that is returning. And so it's a beautiful symbol. And I invite you, in fact, to try to create one on your own. Maybe go outside, find some branches, and, try to make something similar. So you can maybe put that on your altar, or you can have that, on your meditation practice or prayer practice in the morning. Try to find a symbol that for you represent the return of spring. So we are putting our prayers, we're turning our prayers toward the spring. We're honoring still the winter, we're honoring still the cold months and the months where the sun is not very present or as present, but we're starting to call through our prayer the return of the spring. And we believe that our prayer, have an impact when we do that. And so that cross only represent this return of the sun, represent that connection. And so very often, Imbolc is called the fire festival, because we start making big fires and calling the fires. So that I will share more about some practices that you can bring. But just so you know, this is a day really, February 1st and 2nd, that we honor that return of the fire, the lamb birthing, or the new offsprings of the animals birthing. And so the animals and natures knows that spring is returning. They already know that. They don't need a calendar. They don't need to look at, the date. They already know that. They're preparing it. And so if we do that, we can connect and bring more ease into that transition into spring. It's also, it comes from the concept of spring cleanings that we do in our houses sometime, or we do a big cleaning in spring. It's at this moment of the year. And in fact, spring cleanings come from a nature practice, a very ancient nature practice, where we started to prepare for the return of spring. And so it's a good time at this time of the year to start, looking at our houses, looking at our spaces, and start cleaning them and preparing them. Everything we do around us, in our houses, in our home, in our sacred space, is a reflection of our inner world. So by doing spring cleaning, by preparing ourselves for spring, we prepare the inner world for it. We start looking and say, okay, the year has passed, the new year is coming, the shamanic new year, and we are preparing this new year by birthing something different in our homes. So I really invite you to see, how you can connect that maybe to your own practice. The months of winter are traditionally associated with north direction, which is connected to the wind element. And we talked about that last month, for those of you that were on the call last month. And the months of winter is that months where the trees are growing roots. We think the trees are dead and, they have no leaves and nothing is happening. But in fact, it's a moment where they're grounding. They're still going deep in the ground. And so it's a very important time for nature to gather strengths for the new year to come. And it's something that, to my experience, I've seen that we are not always comfortable as humans, because we're always creating, we're always doing something. We never really slow down and root, because we have jobs and we have life that's going on. So, our lives compared to trees or animals don't have any more of the cycle as much. So if we can tap a little bit about it, maybe during our prayer practice, during some things we can do for ourselves, we can reconnect of that wisdom. We can connect to that same wisdom that the trees have or the animals have, and that we have partially lost as we have evolved into what we call modern life. So really inviting you to connect to that, connect to the north. We keep grounding, and we start putting on our altars that little piece of light. So the cross of St. Bridget, maybe through a flower that you can bring there, maybe some candles that you can light on your altar. We're calling the light. That is a prayer. We are like nature, we're calling the light. We're welcoming the light that is coming back. So, as we, So as we do that, so I pulled some cards. So I want to transition into that, because so every month we pulling some shamanic cards, and we connecting to what is alive and what the spirits want us to know. And I did a little bit of different spreads of cards that I did last time with you. So let me pull the cards for you. Here they are. So I'm going to show you this card spread that I've done for you. Here it is. Can you see that? Yeah, okay. And so this spread is a little bit different than the one I did last time. I don't know if you remember, for those of you that were here, but if you were not here, it's fine. I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. And this spread is called a grandfather sun, grandmother moon spread. And here we are looking at the balance of in nature of the masculine and the feminine. And it's something, that we are called to do in our own life. Whether we're a man or woman, it doesn't really matter. We both have a masculine and a feminine side. And that spread invites us on the left side here to look at the masculine side of our life and the right side on the feminine side. So traditionally, we connect the masculine to the sun and the feminine to the moon. So that's why it's called a grandfather sun, grandmother moon spread. And so we must acknowledge that it does not make any difference what gender our bodies are or what our sexual preferences are. All life forms have a male and female and divine component. And that's what we are trying to look at in that spread of card here. So the first card is the Great Smoking Mirror. And so this first card represents the lesson our male side is learning right now. So in Native American tradition, Native American wisdom, the smoking mirror is the reflection that we see of ourselves in others. That's what it is about. That wisdom tells us that when we see others, we have this smoking mirror because we don't really see them. We see them through our own perception. We see them through, our own experiences. And that's why it's called a smoking mirror. We don't see them clearly because of that. And so it's the same concept as, on the opposite side, I would say, as pointing fingers. We point fingers at others. So this person is like this person is like that. Native American considers that as an illusion, as a lie. They say, well, when you're pointing finger at someone, when you're pointing at something, it in fact fingers that are pointing at you. When you point a finger at someone, if you take your hand and you point one finger, if you look at your hand, you will see that 3 fingers are pointing towards you. One pointing toward that person and 3 fingers pointing back at you when you just hold one finger like that. So it's a reminder that when we're pointing fingers, when we're looking at others, it's a reflection of ourselves, whatever we're seeing there. And so that card, the Great Smoking Mirror, invites us to go beyond the illusion of what we see in others so we can really learn to see ourselves. And that's what the smoking mirror is all about. So it reflects a lesson that we need to learn, and you cannot leave the myth or the lies behind. So we can decide, to remove the smoke screen and really see our own worth, see our own talents, see the things that we need to heal. So we can recognize those areas in ourselves that needs further development. And we can stop cowering before our potential and live in our truth. And so there is millions of role models out there, people we can look upon for that. And if we go a little bit beyond that, on another level, we are really asked to be a good reflection for the others. So it's not only what people reflect to us, but it's realizing that we are also a smoking mirror for others. And what kind of reflection we want to send back. When people are in suffering and angry, if we send anger back or we disconnect, is it really what we want to send to them? Or do we want to send love to show them that they are still lovable, even when they are in pain, even when they are angry? So the only way to do that, or the best way to do that, is through walking our talk. So it's easy to point finger and say, oh, those people are angry or they are like that. But what if we were not to do it ourselves and then show them that it's possible to reflect something different? And the reflections we see in others may not always make us happy. It might even make us doubt ourselves if people are very criticizing of who we are. So you might get jealous of other people, maybe achievements. That something happened because we compare each other. And so shattering the mirrors, kind of can shatter this idea of self-importance, gloom or failure that we have put around ourselves, and just step into our own wisdom and honor our truth, whatever we are. And so the smoking mirror really accepts to accept light and shadow as equal. And that's something really key in shamanic work. We don't just seek the light and say the light is good. We seek the light and we say the light and the shadows are good, because they both bring teachings. And so maybe the reflection that we don't like, can teach us what to grow in ourselves, so we can step into our own potential and our highest potential. Because even our shadow side, they serve us in leading us towards the true self, the image of the creator. One of my teachers told me one day, say, there is only one goal, one reason we're here, is to get closer to the creator. From the point of view of the creator, everybody is worthy. Everybody is unique. Everybody is beautiful in the way they are. So if I want to get closer to the creator, I need to be able to see like the creator. And when the creator look at you or at me or at someone else, he just sees beauty. He just sees someone that's perfect where they are. And every time I judge, I see someone through a smoking mirror, I separate from the creator. I do not look at others like the creator. And that's going to create suffering. That's a belief we have. When we judge others and we separate, it might feel good for a few minutes or for a few days, but in fact, it does create suffering. And so here in that card spread, that's what the masculine side of us is asking. And we've learned, through this wounded masculine society we're living in, to really separate, to judge each other, to try to be better than the others, to put each other down so we can feel safe or secure or better. And so we have disconnected, from the truth, from the reality of who we are, those perfect, beautiful beings. So here, the grandfather sun is bringing light. It's a return of the sun. So that's quite an interesting card. As the sun is returning, the sun is asking us to see clearly, to bring the light, to see a clear reflection, and to become a clear reflections for others. Meaning being a reflection in the same way the creator would reflect to them, with love, kindness, and compassion. My teacher told me one day, say, you don't have to like everybody, but you have to love everyone. So we don't like to like everything that everybody does or say, but we have to love them. We have to find that space in our hearts that connect us to the point of view of the creator. So that's a teaching here Grandfather Sun is inviting us to, the great smoking mirror. So we can see our reflection clearly in others, and we can send our reflections clearly to the others. The second card is a reflection of what Grandmother Moon, so our female side, is learning right now. And the card that was spread that Grandmother Moon wants us to say is the sweat lodge, purification. And it's interesting because sweat lodges, you know, are those are called temazcal sometimes. Those are made the structure of wood, and it's made of willow wood, willow tree, which is St. Bridget's energy, St. Bridget's tree. So I find it quite interesting. That's a card that came out today. And the sweat lodge so invite us to purify our feminine side, to cleanse it. And when I sat with it earlier, what was coming up for me is that the feminine side of us, the part of us that allow us to receive, that trust that opens. You know, sweat lodge is this, you know, dome with a door towards the heat, towards the sun, towards the fire and the light. And we allow the sun, we allow the fire to come into the sweat lodge to bring purification. And it's kind of interesting here. We have the sun on the masculine side, the moon on the feminine side. And here the moon is opening and letting the sun come in to purify itself, to trust the power that they have together. So that purification card comes perfectly on that date right now of spring cleaning, that symbol of this fire celebration of Imbolc, that asking us to cleanse our homes, our sacred space, maybe our relations, our interactions with others. I can clearly see for myself, I don't know about you, where I need to do that. Where are the part in my life where, you know what, that's not very clean what's happening here. How can I purify that? How can I cleanse that? You know, I think, at least for me, that is in the male body, you know, it's always a big question how I nurture my feminine. How allow this feminine, gentle opening and trust to come in. How I trust. How I don't become, you know, I don't make, how I do not make, my feminine masculine, which is very often the case of what happened. We make ourselves harder. We separate. We think we have to place, you know, boundaries that are really separating from each other. Not that we should not have boundaries, but they don't come from a place of heart. They come from a place of wound, of ego, of fear. It's time for the feminine to return. We know that on this earth at the moment. That's clearly what this civilization is learning at the moment. That respect, so we can create that warm sweat lodge, that place of warmth at the middle of the winter. That is a place of nurturing, of compassion. And as we go into the sweat, we put the rocks that are red because they've been on the fire for many hours at the middle of the sweat, and we pour water on it. And the water spread into the lodge that's completely covered and cleans us, rinse us. That's the power of the water. And that's what our feminine side is learning at the moment. So the third card is a challenge that is found in the lesson of our male side at the moment. So remember, our male side was all about reflection and the smoking mirror, how we don't see the other properly and how we do not reflect to the others properly. And here the card is the standing people. Standing people are the trees. So that's the card we got here. So that's what we need here to embody that clear reflection. So what is the lesson here? When you think of the trees in the forest that are standing still, rooted in the ground, that there's not one tree that is similar to the others. Every single tree in the forest is different. Yet they all send a pure reflection to each other. There's not one tree that believes it's better than the other tree. They all cooperate together. They all acknowledged that whatever tree is next to them is worth being there. They support each other. We now know that trees, through their roots, communicate with each other, give nutrients to each other, support their saplings. If there's a tree that's a little bit weak, the trees that are stronger, we know that now, give nutritions to the weaker trees so they can survive. So that's the invitation here. How do we see that male reflection side? Instead of separating and judging, how do we allow that diversity? And the tree do that by being very rooted, grounded. They are in their power first. And when we are in our power, there's no more competition. Because we recognize that we all have the wisdom of the Creator, that we all have the potential to be a part of the greater picture. We all have a role to play if we step into it. If I compare and I think I have more to bring to the world than others, or than others are bringing more to the world than me, smoking mirrors, I cannot stand in my own power. My own power depends on the way I am perceived, the way I see others. And I will always fall short of my own power. And we do that all the time. We get jealous, we judge, we don't think we are good enough, whatever is that smoking mirror that we bring, prevent us to be like the trees. So let's look at the feminine side here. So we had the sweat lodge, the purification that is the wisdom of Grandmother Moon that she wanted to bring to us. And here is what the fourth card is asking us. So that's a challenge for us. How do we go into that purification place? And the card that came is the arrow. Truth as protection, it says on that card. So what is this arrow we're talking about here? What does, if you just think, you don't even need to know how to read those cards, you can just feel into it. What is this warrior showing us here with its arrow? It's to be in our own truth, to shoot our arrow straight. That's what the power of the warrior is. Because your own truth is your protection. We don't need to defend ourselves when we are in our own truth. There's no competition. There's no need to be liked, to be a certain way, to maybe behave as everybody else. We can be unique because we know, that's what the arrow is teaching us here, that when we point our prayer perfectly, like a straight arrow, when we are in our prayer, perfectly aligned with our path, nothing can stop us. That is our power. And here, because it's on our feminine side, the teaching of Grandmother Moon, that's what she's inviting us to be purified, to clear our mind and our bodies. We need to be straight aligned with our prayers. And then we don't need to protect ourselves. We don't need to fight others. We don't need to tell anyone what's good, wrong or right. There is no more smoking mirrors. There is nothing in between. Our truth is our truth. We honor that fully. So maybe you can look at that in maybe a present situation you are living in. because you can protect yourself maybe from an uncomfortable situation by just using your truth as your protection. If you know your truth, whatever people say doesn't matter. Very often people say, why are you doing this? Why are you choosing this path? But I know it was my truth. I didn't need to defend it. So it does not matter what others think of you, because when you honor your truth, you cannot be hurt by others. There's something bigger that's guiding your arrow. But if we doubt ourselves, very often we judge the others. It's a form of protection. Also, what I like about the arrow, it's really inviting us to look how we are pointing our prayers. And when I say prayers, I mean what we say and what we do, not just when we sit in prayers. Like everything we do in our life. How am I pointing that prayer? Is this really my truth, or am I doing that to convince someone, to be loved, to belong? The arrows can kill if it's aimed, at the heart of someone. So the arrows has power. So we can look at our intention here and our prayer and see, how do we want to aim this prayer? So ultimately what the arrow is telling us is that it invites us to stay on our sacred path, to stay on it, and to witness maybe when we are not. And that's how we go through that purification here process. And we can look at, our jobs, our relationships, what we share on social media, what we tell each others, how we react. And we can always see when this arrow was not shot very straight, when it was not aligned with really our ultimate truth, but when it's aligned maybe with our wounding, with our fear, with our need. So here's the last card, the fifth card. And the fifth card represents the assistance that we're receiving from spirit to unite this female and male side, to unite all the things we just discussed. And it's interesting because we started with smoke and we ended up with smoke. So the card here is the smoke signals. And so Native Americans, used to make those fires, and we use blankets on top of it to make smoke signals to communicate with each other during time of war, during time of transition, communicating from far away. Obviously, there was no internet, no phones. So that was a way to communicate. But if you look at the smoke signals, it's a unification between the earth and the sky. The smoke connect Grandfather Sky and Grandmother Earth. That's a way of communicating between the feminine and the masculine. The smoke signals are our prayers. That's how I see them. It's what are the messages I'm sending to the world? What am I talking about? What is my prayer? That's my smoke signals to the Creator. When I behave a certain way with others, with nature, when I look at my life, those are my smoke signals. That's my message from earth to the sky, from my humanity to my divine creator. And so the smoke signals are ultimately telling me to look at how do I walk my talk. We can have beautiful intentions of connections with each other, maybe of unconditional love, of trust and compassion. But is that really the signals I'm sending to others? My own fire of my heart and my prayer, that smoke that goes into the wind of the north, is what I'm telling my creator and the others. So when others look at my fire and my smoke signals, what do they see? What do they see? What do they hear? Because the signals I'm sending to my creator is what's going to manifest. So if I lack direction, let's say, or I don't have a clear intention for my life, I'm too busy or scared or worried, or I have all those things that cloud my mind, that bring smoking mirrors, spirit doesn't know how to assist us. Only when I put a clear intention, a clear smoke signals, when spirits knows how to assist me. But if I send worries, anger to the creator really is not going to know what to do with it. So here we need to pay attention of the power of our intention or the power of our prayer. I prefer a little bit power of prayer than prayer of intention here. So to win our battle, this life battle, we need to clear our intention here. Clear the smoking mirrors. That's self-accountability, self-awareness. Purify our mind. That's our sweat lodge. Purify our bodies. Shoot my arrow straight. Standing grounded deeply, like the standing people, the trees in the ground. And then my intent is going to be very clear. What smoke signals I'm sending to my creator. So I'm going to invite you for just a couple of minutes to just write down. And maybe, I've seen many of you are writing, but maybe write 2 or 3 ways you've been sending your smoke signals not in the way you want to send them. Maybe it's through words or actions, and you can see, maybe this is not my prayer I want with that person. Maybe it could be your boss, could be your daughter, your husband, could be your best friend, could be your president. Wherever we're sending something out there towards someone, maybe write about a little bit, say it's like, yeah, that's the smoking mirror here. That's not the reflection I want to send out. That's not who I want to be. And maybe there's 2, 3 things. And it's always better to put them very concretely, like specifically, maybe you're thinking of someone or an actions or way you've reacted and say, that was my arrow. That was my prayer. Did I use my truth in that prayer, that way of being, of talking? Or did I use my wound, my fear, my anger, my self-doubt? Which smoke signals did I send from my own sacred fire of my heart to the creator? So I'll just give you a couple of minutes here just to reflect on that. Hello, Isabel. So I want to invite one or two very brave people here to share something. So anything that you want to share, you don't have to give a name, and you can say, hey, when you were talking, there was something for me. Trust me, there's nothing you can say that none of us have experienced or done here. That I know for sure. So if someone feels brave or feels like, you know what, I'm going to do that in front of everybody, in front of the creator, because we're all part of creation here. There's one thing here that I want to share. So just unmute yourself and just go for it.
I'm going to be the brave one.
Yes.
So, it's this reading is so interesting. And I'm going to share, a little bit because it has to do with the prayer I've been doing to the fire and the water elements recently. And I realized that something has shifted for me in a sense that, my prayer to the fire had a lot to do with dealing with my grief and regrets and possibly shame. And then the water obviously was asking for purification. But this weekend, I realized that I'm not in grief anymore, okay? And that my prayer was not in grief at all. And actually, my fire prayer today turned out to be a big dance into my living room to actually celebrate my joy, okay? And so what I realized is somehow I had defined myself in the last few years only through this grief. And I couldn't even see that there's so much joy and so much life, that I'm such a radiant person, and that my heart is actually a lot stronger than I thought, than I think, that there's so much healing that has happened, that now my prayer is shifting towards embodying more my joy and my sparkling, right? It's like I didn't see myself, I wasn't seeing myself through the right reflection. It was through an old reflection. And so because of that, I was able, I'm navigating a connection right now with a person. And instead of acting from a place of fear, I've acted from a place of, I'm a joyful, happy person, right? Therefore, I do not fear anything because I'm capable of loving myself just the way I am.
That's beautiful. Very different smoke signals.
That's exactly my point.
Thank you, sister. Thank you for having the courage to share and for sharing that medicine. Yeah. And it's something we all experience. We get stuck into our own stories. Very often, by the way, that got me really upset a lot when I talked to my teacher about something going on into my life. His answer was always, this is just a story you're telling yourself. And our stories are very real sometimes, because we're very angry or upset or sad, or and we should honor that. But he invited me to see that it's a story I was self-creating or reinforcing. I was getting stuck there. Sometimes we stay for years with resentments towards someone or something happened to us. And that's the smoke signals we're sending to the creator. That's our prayer. And it doesn't mean don't honor your grief, don't honor your pain, don't honor any trauma, any sadness. We should honor that. I talked about it earlier. We need to honor the shadows, but they're teaching us something there. And that's the ultimate goal. So we can get out of that prayer and shift it into something else. Does anybody else, I want to give another person a little bit of space to share something maybe that's resonating for you, that feels alive, as we were going through that spread of cards or so that prayer of Imbolc here. Anyone else? Just unmute yourself because we can't hear you. There's a little button at the bottom left.
Okay. Is it okay right now? You hear?
We can hear you, sister.
Yeah. So I'm sending really, really, I mean, heavy, dense energy right now, and a lot of fear and anger, especially to my male side, which is including my father, my brother, plus my other part. But here's the thing, here's my confusion. Even though I know all these techniques, I'm working on becoming a trauma release therapist and everything. I went through a long time denying all the negatives, right? For these smokes to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And denial also doesn't make it good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You are fearful, but you want to send a nice smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you denying that and smiling and sending this positive vibe because you know that what you send is going to come back to you because there is only one, right? But it is not your truth, and the wound is still there and it is bleeding. Whether you say that no, it's not bleeding, I'm the shiny amazing thing. No, you are lying. It is not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that easy to really actually sending this beautiful smoke with a purpose of coming it back to you in a nice way. So here, what I met was like getting out of the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do this with the expectation of things are going to change with you and you have a goal to reach in the future for yourself, I said to myself, you're still making what your ego is telling to you. You are still doing, your intention is still related with your trauma. And so, as I clear one trauma, the other one comes out, and I cleared that one, and then the other one comes out. So I feel myself lost. And I'm not going to deny this to send a good smoke. So here where my anger is, I am angry at this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, one other person here who is still me is watching my anger always. Thanks God that I could at least achieve this, to be an absorber, not get into the story. But it is what it is, and there's no other thing that I can do. And I know that it is coming back to me because I'm mad at creator at some point.
Mm.
And it's part of my love. I'm hoping that that I show my love honestly is gonna reward at some point.
Mm. Thank you, sister, for sharing that. There's so much truth in all of what you shared. I can so deeply resonate with it. And it's fine for my fire, for my smoke signals to be about grief or pain. This is my truth in that moment. So it's important to see that it's not that I'm going just to send love and light there. I can send, hey, I'm angry right now. This is my smoke signals, honoring where we are. But the invitation is also to continue purifying, which you're doing when you're honoring your truth. That's your straight arrow. This is my truth in that moment. But it's not aimed at someone to hurt them back. It's aimed to send a true reflection. This is who I am. I'm not going to put a smoke mirror on me to feel like, hey, I'm all happy and light right now when I'm not. It's honoring where we are right now for the sake of honoring our truth. And like we said earlier, the truth is our protection. Our truth is what protects us. When we are not in it, we need to add additional defenses. We're going to try to put a nice face and fake it or things like that. And Yeah, I like also what you said about I'm angry at the creator right now. Yeah.
So
And, you know, it reminds me of, yeah, you know, in the Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament, the prophet Jeremiah, I like looking at old traditions to see what wisdom is there, you know, to be learned. And Jeremiah, there's a time where he's very angry at God, very angry. And that's a case of most prophets, by the way. They were not, most of them were absolutely not happy to be selected to be the voice of God, to be telling the truth, because the truth is hard to be heard. You know, if you are Dr. King and you have to go out there to tell the truth, what God is whispering in your heart, that might put you in danger. That often your community, I mean, most of those prophets were kicked out of the community because people thought they were crazy. Who are those people that talk the voice of God? I mean, like if someone started doing that today, imagine that. We put them in an asylum, you know, or like, who is that person? So honoring our truth and saying that truth in that moment, you know, and Jeremiah talks a lot about it. And there's a whole passage where he swears at God. He's like, I don't want to do this again. My community hate me, you know, the government at the time, the kings of the time were really upset by those prophets because those people were like disturbing the system. Very similar to what's happening today. People come out and say, no, this is not the way we want to relate. And, you know, governments and laws and are kind of fighting that. And so he goes on and on and on for pages after God say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be your envoy. This is not a gift. I hate it. You know, my community hates me. My, you know, kings is hating me. I've been arrested. I've been tortured. I don't want to do that anymore. And he goes on and on and on. And God is listening there. The creator is listening very compassionately. And the creator in the scripture is a she. So she's listening. And she's like, I hear you. Okay, what else do you have to tell me? And he keeps screaming. He keeps swearing. So she listened with a lot of love and compassion. She keeps listening. So he goes on, and after, you know, a few pages, he's done, you know, with all his complaints. You know, it's like the, you know, the customer complaint book at the restaurant, and you write all your things, and they're like, okay. And when he's finished, she asked him, he said, are you done? And he was like, you know, he's like exhausted because he's just been on and on going after God. And he's like, yeah, I'm done. He said, great. Thank you. So that's what God's telling him. He says, thank you, Jeremiah. And he said, okay, so now here's what you're going to go tell them. And he keeps going, you know, he keeps asking him things, you know. And there's this tension, which I really like in that passage, which for me is really powerful, which is God is allowing our truth even to be upset after the creator about what's happening in our lives. And still there for us, compassionate, loving, trusting, and guiding. And never, ever giving up on love. Never giving up, never judging. And I saw, for me, it's a beautiful passage of reminding us, because sometimes it can be exhausting to do that. And, you know, in the work you do, like trauma works and all of that, it can be pretty intense to hold that space. But I don't know if you really choose to do that work. I'm sure it has chosen you in so many ways. You know, it's choosing us and asking us to do that. So my practice for me, I can only share, you know, from my own experience here, is to build enough and in big space of compassion and love around that so I can keep going. So it's also seeing all the beautiful things that I am, all the things that are very grateful for. A little bit what Isabel was sharing, you know, seeing all the other beauty. And then when we have that container that's big enough, then we are not just the anger. Then we are not just this. We have this and that. And that is that container of the creator, which is much, much bigger, which is keeping us alive, making your heart beat. That's the creator. That's this life force that still wants to get going. And so we have enough of that. So the smoking mirror is kind of falling apart. We're not lying to ourselves anymore. We're not trying to pretend. We're not trying to be any of that. But as the prayer we did at the beginning, we learned to see it like the eagle flying from great heights. So we can see the important details, but not be stuck in one detail. We can see the whole perspective, the whole landscape. And yes, see there is anger. See there is pain. See there is, resentment. Maybe there's things we still can't forgive, and that's fine. We see that clearly, but we see it from great heights. We see it from the point of view of the creator. So it's not our whole reality, not all we are. And then my experience is, when we can do that, is that my prayer change over time in its own timing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it does. And you can see, I don't know, I can feel it for sure here when you're talking, a lot of compassion and love for yourself. That I feel for you too. Honoring your truth, not sending you a smoking mirror of resentment or judgment or separation. So allowing you to also continue going on that with a lot of courage, which it requires, I think the greatest quality that we can have right now in this world is having the courage to embrace it all and stay soft, gentle in maybe the middle of the grief we experience because of what's happening to our planet or what's happening to each other, what we're doing to each other. And that's a practice for sure. It's not the path that is walked by the majority. They always say this path is a path that's the less traveled. That's a path less traveled. And our society and education and, culture, it's kind of not supporting that most of the time. If you have pain, take a painkiller. If you're sad, just go and drink. So we have all those things that numbs ourselves. That's what we do. We numb, so we don't honor all of it. We don't want to be a donor, someone that's not happy or crying when all my friends are happy. We don't honor that very much. In traditional society, in native cultures, people that are in suffering, people that are going through grief or pain are held by the whole community, and they are so honored in what they experience. It's not seen as wrong. It's not seen as something that needs to change and being stopped. It is honored and held by the whole group. And I think for me, that's one of the main reasons that I teach and that I bring people in circles together, is that we can be here for each other. Because I don't think we can walk these things alone. I don't believe that. And we're not wired for that. Because if we do it alone, that's very daunting, It's very daunting. So thanks for that clear reflection.
Thanks
for that. And honoring that is so important, sister. And it's so beautiful. It's like, that's what I really want to say there. It's what I feel. I deeply feel that in my heart. That is something we can hold for each other. And honoring our truth. The smoke signals are not about roses and love only.
Well, I don't have right now. What can I do?
Yeah, and that's fine. And the space here and the community of people that are walking that path can hold that. It's very important. The worst things we can do for our planets and our communities is to numb our pain. Because unprocessed grief, unprocessed anger, we know exactly how it turned out. Just look at our leaders.
Well,
You
the
know?
good part is like when you curse at something and when you let all these demons out, right? When you write with it, when you sing with it, which I am a singer also, and
Mm-hmm.
I make songs out of my anger. And I do this since I was 4 years old. I was getting mad at my mother and going making a song and going singing it to her. This was the way I was like a kid, right? So I have this habit. I still do it. And now actually these anger songs are becoming my love songs to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is my path. Actually, my anger and how I deal with it showed me my path, that I was not singing. I gave up on singing at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to be a reflection. This was my job. In all the spiritual groups also, I reflected everything people didn't want to see. And I was just labeled in the groups that I was trained even.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just making the game hard for people without wanting to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I still am. And this is what I did also for my divine masculine. So he could not handle any of these triggers. And he found himself a smiling mirror, which shows everything all right, which is not him. And he believes that he is this smiling mirror right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I will still keep my truth. There's nothing I can do with this. And I am hoping the storm will be over at some time and I can send my roses too. This is all I can do.
That's beautiful, sister. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank
Thank you.
you. So much there. Yeah. So um, I wanted to give you a few practices. I mentioned some of them. Um, Practices that are linked to Imbolc because that's this time of the year. And so we can call for something different. So one of the Imbolc rituals is to make this bridged cross that I showed you earlier. So this small four-arm cross made out of rushes. So it's a fire wheel symbol. And this fire wheel symbol is seen as a symbol of protection. So it's a very powerful and ancient symbol. So you can do that. I mean, you can buy one online. There's people saying those crosses out there on Etsy or either, but make it simple. It doesn't have to be as beautiful as the one I shared with you, but just make that as a symbol, calling the fire wheel symbol, and use that as protection. Remember, that's the truth of the moment. The truth is our protection. Our truth is our protection. So that's the truth of what's happening in nature right now. And we bring in that. The second one is a spring clean your home. Like I said, spring cleaning comes from nature, a very ancient nature practice. It was made originally as a nature ritual. So you can do that in your home. One of the things I really like to do, if you feel called to it, is to prepare a little spray with different essential oil. Maybe rose, frankincense, bergamot, something that smells like spring to you. Make your own. Don't go online, look for what's right. Feel into it. Take a little bottle of water spray, put a few drops of each of the oil in it, mix it, and bless your home. Go around your home and spray that everywhere, in the corner, under the cabinets, everywhere you've done your cleaning. So clean the room and spray it. So that's a ritual to cleanse your home for Imbolc. Calling Saint Bridget, Bridget, that's priestess that brings us flowers. So put those flowers in your spray and bring that. Another thing you can do is at sunset every evening, it's put candles in every rooms of your house. So we're calling the sun. The sun is setting and we're doing the opposite. We bring more light. So that celebrates the rebirth of the sun. You put candle everywhere as much as you can. You can put a lot of light a lot your home. And maybe for 30 minutes or an hour, you bring a lot of light. So you're connecting to that energy. We're calling that energy to that. And you do that at sunset. We're expanding the light during the day. We're making the light goes longer, which is what's happening. You know, we're gaining time at the moment on our days in the evening. A few minutes, 2-3 minutes every day at the moment. Another thing you could do is visit a river or maybe a little stream, a body of water. And you can use that water to cleanse yourself as a symbol of purification, like the sweat lodge that we had in our card. And you just cleanse something. Cleanse yourself. Asking the water for clarity, for letting go. Water is a powerful spirit to help us flow again in our life, to bring back the flow. So, you know, the waters of a river or for streams are really powerful for that. They carry that energy of flow. Have a cleansing bath ritual. Not just a bath you take, but like make a special bath. Maybe you buy some flowers, some rose, and you put some petals there. You spray the spray you use for your home, you spray it on the bath. And you take your bath when you go into the water as this element of purification. You make your bath a ritual. It's not just a normal bath to cleanse ourselves externally, it's also internal. This is present in many traditions. You know, I've studied a lot in Peru, and I, you know, still do those retreats in Peru. And very often we do this cleansing baths with a lot of local flowers. It was traditionally the women that would prepare this bath. You know, this feminine side inside of us that wants that gentleness, that purification from the flowers. Another thing, and I talked a little bit about it last month. Last month, as in January, we look at what we planted last year and what grew or what didn't grow very well. While February and Imbolc is the time of the year that we start planting seeds. We started looking at the seeds we want to plant now in spring. It's now that we prepare it. And you can do that in real life, like, I mean, buying seeds and planting them in your home in little pots if you don't have a garden. Planting them in the garden, because that's usually when we plant seeds now. So they go through a frost and then they can really start well in spring. Or doing that spiritually, making a list of, hey, what do I want to plant this spring? That's coming. It's in March. It's coming very soon. So what am I going to plant next month when we'll connect again with each other? So we start this planning. What I will grow now that the winter is starting to pass. And start looking at that. Those are many ways, you know, you can play a lot around that. And maybe you have an idea for your own ritual. But honor that moment. Connect to Bridget. Imagine her walking around the snowy forest and spreading her flowers around. This return of spring is this time of creation. That's when nature is going to start creating again. And creation is a feminine force. The womb, the universe that was created into being. Because if we're too tight where we are right now, we're going to continue this year the same way. If we give space and clear and clean and look at new seeds, we have an opportunity to give a little bit of space for something different to grow. And one of the things that's good with all those rituals, you know, is that they are a smoke signal to the creator. The creator sees that. It's like, oh, there's, you know, willingness to clean the house, to clean purification bath, to bring that little cross on the altar for protection, to plant new seeds, to light candles in the evening for more light. And all of that is calling something specific. So explore that. Do you have any question on what I just shared, or anybody maybe has another ritual or something you like to do in the early springs or middle of winter?
When I like to mop the floors with Florida water.
Oh, nice. I like that.
And the surfaces, you know, like kitchen sink, doorknobs. Yes.
I like that. So Florida water, for those of you who don't know, it comes from Peru. You know, is that flower water? That's what it's called, Florida water. It's made of different flowers, and it smells really good. You can find it online, and you can use it on your body, on objects, on altars, on crystal stones. Smell really good. Anybody else has a little thing that they do? Spring cleaning, something interesting? Okay, well, we have a lot of, you know, rituals here, you know, and don't be overwhelmed by it. Just do one evening. Then next weekend, maybe the weekend is finished, or maybe this evening you just do a nice bath and you do it a little bit differently. You know, you put some candles around your bath, you make it ready, a moments of purification. Okay, so I'm going to do a little prayer to close this time together, and then share a couple of things, and then we'll end the call. So inviting you to just connect, reconnect internally. Maybe a lot of things were moved right now. Maybe some stuff came up. So inviting you to connect. What's alive right now? No judgment, just whatever is alive. Oh, great spirit, great mystery. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to pray with you, Creator, to remind ourselves of this sacred life, remind ourselves of our prayers. Thank you for opening our hearts so we can receive and allow the flow of life, like the great rivers, to be free, clear, and open. Thanking the spirit of the East, Grandfather Fire, Grandfather Puma, and Grandmother Jaguar, for the gift of the fire of the sun, the gift of our own fires, this place of warmth and light that carries the prayer of gratitude. Thanking the grandmothers and the grandfather of the West, Grandmother Water, Grandfather Eagle, Grandmother Condor, for bringing the prayer of clarity, showing us how to pray, flying at great heights, seeing the details that matters from afar, and never losing the big picture. Thanking the grandmothers and the grandfather of the North, Grandfather Wind, Grandfather Deer, for reminding us that there is no others, that everything is a reflection. Thank you for encouraging you and me to pray in communion with each other, to see the smoking mirrors, that we have put on our lives, so we can remember our prayer, thanking the grandmothers and the grandfather of the South, Grandmother Earth, Grandmother Snake, Grandmother Spider, for reminding us of the prayer of unconditional love for all our experiences, our lights and our shadows, opening ourselves to more gratitude and love in everything we experience, reminding us that everything we have received in our life is to be given unconditionally, thanking the spirit of above, Grandfather Sky, Grandfather Sun, Grandmother Moon, for their guidance, their beautiful dance to reunite our masculine and feminine, opening ourselves to more unity within, so we can create more unity in this world. Thanking the spirit of below, the spirit animals, our guides, all the spirits that live below the ground, for holding our steps and guiding us, reminding us to walk life one step at a time, being mindful and focus on the next step we will take. Thanking all the spirits that guided each and every one of us, thanking the Creator, thanking all my relations, one-legged, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged ones, the creeping crawlers, the stone people, and every relations that is dancing with us on this earth and beyond. May we keep opening our hearts, purifying our inner world, our souls, and our hearts, so we can embody the truth of the Creator, see and walk as He walked this life with us, honoring our humanity in its depth, so we can connect more deeply to the divine in us. Aho. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining the call. So I will be sending you an email with the recording of that call, so you can listen to it again if you want. If you missed the beginning, or you want to reconnect to some of the prayers or the wisdom that was shared, we'll have our next call early March for the March wisdom, preparing and entering spring. And I look very much forward to seeing you there. Thanks for your donations that you gave for the class. Thanks for participating. I hope you get even one nuggets, one little, nice gem for what we shared. Sending my prayers to each and every one of you, to all your relations, your families, your communities. May we keep growing together. May we keep supporting and holding each other. And that's all what we need, just a little bit more love. Yeah. And feeling our humanity, honoring it, so important. One of the words that my teacher shared with me one day said, the more human you are, the more divine you are. The more human. So let's try to be just good humans and honoring that humanity, so we can really walk this path with a lot of magic that is anchored in humbleness, deep humbleness of this human experience. Much love, everyone. Enjoy your evening. And I'm going to enjoy my Monday morning here on the Southern Hemisphere. I see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.